But science has proven that that is no longer true. And as a result, you have the ability to wire your brain. You have the ability to prune neural pathways that you don't want to use anymore, i.e., unaccountable, bad, toxic, poor behaviors. And then you have the ability to create these new behaviors. Now, for people saying, no, Dr. Donna, that shit ain't true. You can't wire your brain. That's not real. Okay, cool. So when you went to kindergarten, if you live in America, your first time going to school, good morning, Regina, you had some information. Now, do you have more information today than you did when you were in kindergarten? Yeah, you do. I hope you do. When you graduated from high school, do you have more information now than when you were in high school? Yeah. So how'd you get that information if your mindset is fixed? Where'd it come from? Where'd it come from? How'd you do it? If you can't create new neural pathways, then how did you know how to not ride a bike, had a big wheel, had a one wheel, and now you went maybe to a skateboard, tricycle, bicycle, motorcycle. Now there are people who can drive 18-wheeler tractor trailers. I've never seen a 5-year-old drive an 18-wheeler tractor trailer. Little feet can't reach the doggone pedals or the gear shift. So if you learned all of those things, you didn't learn how to be a parent. If you're a parent, you didn't already know how to be a spouse. You had to learn how to do those things. And every job that you ever had, every business that you ever had, everything that you didn't know how to tie your shoes, put your clothes on, iron. For those of you who still iron, good morning, Jasmine. And so, yes, your brain can be wired to do new things. Isn't that amazing how unaccountable people will have you thinking you can't learn anything else? But you learned how to do all the things that you already know how to do. That's why neuroplasticity is real, neurogenesis is real, and new neurons are real. Okay, with that being said, what is the definition of neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity is also known as just plasticity, and it is the brain's ability to change, adapt, and reorganize itself throughout life in response to experiences, learning, environment, and even injury. I'm going to say that again. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability, and it's also referred to as plasticity, but it's the brain's ability to change. So going from kindergarten to middle school to high school to your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, 80s, 90s, and 100s, you have to change. You have to adapt and reorganize itself throughout life in response to experiences, learning environment, and even injury. So that is why you know you are where you are because of neuroplasticity. Now, you might not have known this years ago, but now you know. So it feels like, oh, I moved to a new environment. So I used to live in cold ass Michigan and had to go back for a minute. But after I had the ability to leave, I've never lived somewhere cold on purpose ever again. I lived in Kentucky, Tennessee, lived in Tennessee, worked in Kentucky because of Fort Campbell, lived in Alabama, lived in Florida, lived in South Korea, and I have lived here in Las Vegas for 14 and a half years because I learned from that experience that my brain is wired for hot. It's wired for sunshine. Sunshine 330 days out the year. Florida, sunshine state. Definitely not trying to be in those environments, but I learned that I don't like cold weather. My brain said, no brain freezes over here. We need to be in warm weather. But everything else that I have experienced, it has been through neuroplasticity. So if you just think about your life, look around the environment that you're in now, and just think about how many years ago you may have not been in that environment, or how much you've learned and experienced in the time and thousands and thousands and thousands upon days that you have been here. Now you know that you have the ability to change that. You actually have the ability. Now, your stuck Millie and your stens would tell you you can't change the environment. We from the east side, and this is where we are. And Regina is in New York right now. Boogie Down Bronx, Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy, baby, do or die. This is my hood, 313, baby, I'm representing. No, you don't have to, just because you are there, doesn't mean that you have to stay there. And if you like it and it's working, then stay where you are. But you don't have to stay there up here, regardless of where you are. So your brain is plastic. You have been experiencing neuroplasticity your entire life, but now you get to do it on purpose. You get to understand that you're doing it on purpose. And we know I tell you don't do anything without a strategy. So now that you know that your brain is malleable and plastic and it can go wherever you want it to go, the neural pathways can. Now you can be strategic about what you think, how you think, where you learn, how you learn, what you experience, and why you experience it, you have the ability to do that 1000%.